Have you ever noticed how easily we dismiss the idea of spells today? Where goes your mind when I say the word spell? Do you think of fantasy or magic? Witches and stories or woo woo girls? Ancient rituals? Something mystical that belongs to the past? But what if spells never disappeared? What if most of us are casting them from every single day without even realizing it? Because a spell is simply words repeated with intention. Then the sentences we speak about ourselves might be the most powerful spells of all, don't you think? And that is where this conversation becomes interesting. Because when we look at history, something fascinating appears. Across cultures, across continents, and across thousands of years, humans have treated words very differently than that we do today. You see, language was not just communication. Language is influence. Language is power. Language is creation. I noticed that I wrote it in the past tense, but it is still the present tense. So if you hear me like stuttering, I'm adjusting. um, Before I go further, if you like this content, then please subscribe on my channel. And I'm very curious about what your point of view is on the subject of words. So, are you a believer that words are creation? Or do you think a little different about it? Let's open up the conversation. In many traditions, the act of speaking words aloud was believed to shape reality itself. Which brings us to something that exists in almost every culture on this earth: spells. Not necessarily in the way modern movies portray them, but it's something much more subtle. It's much more human. So, I'm a witch. And because I'm a witch, I wanted to talk about spells and intentional language. Because when people hear the word spell, or when I say to people, oh, I'm going to do a spell, they often maybe imagine something supernatural, right? But historically and personally, spells are much simpler than that. In traditions, spell is simply a structure, use of language, words that are spoken with intention, words that are repeated with focus, words used to influence the mind, the body, and the world around us. I noticed that my words shaped my emotional and mental state because I spoke them. Anthropologists who study ancient cultures often notice that spells, prayers, and chants share very similar structures. They all have repetition, rhythm, and emotional intensity. And usually they are spoken during moments of uncertainty, illness, fear, loss, hope. What this reveals is something deeply human. When we face situations we can't fully control, we often turn to language to create some form of structure and some sense of safety. Speaking words aloud helps our mind organize experience. It creates the feeling that something is being done. It transforms chaos into ritual, basically. And even in modern psychology, we see similar patterns, right? The use of affirmations, cognitive reframing, guided meditation, all of these practices involve structured language used intentionally to influence thought patterns. which means that the difference between a spell and a psychological technique may not be as large as people imagine. Both rely on repetition, both rely on intention, and both rely on the brain's tendency to internalize repeated language. And this reveals something fascinating. I think it's very fascinating about human nature. Across thousands of years, our ancestors have instinctively understood that words shape our internal and outer reality. Which brings me to something interesting, I think, that happened as our society became more and more modern. Slowly, language lost some of the meaning and the power it once carried, like we forgot how to speak. In ancient cultures, words are treated with caution. Stories were memorized very carefully. Sacred texts were preserved with precision. Ritual language followed specific structures. But in today's society, in our modern culture, language is treated casually, often very differently. Oh, we speak quickly, we repeat phrases without thinking about them, without knowing that they are existing in our minds. We describe ourselves with labels that may not even be accurate. I'm terrible at relationships. I always mess things up. I'm just not smart enough. I'm just not worthy enough. That's absolutely a lie, I can tell you that. These sentences are often spoken jokingly, and if you recognize this, I did that for myself as a coping mechanism for a very long time. And if you recognize this, then please subscribe on my channel and let me know in the comments, because I like to know that I'm not alone in this. I often made very denigrating jokes, very low blow jokes about myself, because in my mind it was better that I said it about myself than that anyone else could say it about me before that. It was a way to take the punch, I think, because I knew that the punch was coming eventually, right? One way or the other. So why not soften the blow? These sentences that are often spoken about jokingly from out yourself or out of frustration. The difference doesn't matter because our brain does not always interpret them as a joke. Our nervous system registers repetition. Our mind builds patterns based on our thinking behavior and based on what we choose to think, what we choose to believe. And patterns slowly become beliefs. In other words, modern humans sometimes speak about themselves in ways that ancient cultures might have considered very dangerous. Because those cultures, our ancestors, understood something that's psychological. I get very, I get very riled up. Wait a minute. I'm back. I ground myself. As you can hear, I'm very passionate about basically this, what I'm doing. I love that I can talk about topics and about the patterns that I made in my mind, because sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy with keeping all the information inside. So I'm very grateful for all of my listeners who made it until to here. So thank you for that. And if you're not subscribed yet, then hit the subscribe button. I really like to see how many people are thinking the same as me. Back to what I was saying. So, in other words, we as humans often speak about ourselves in ways that ancient cultures might have considered very dangerous. Because those cultures understood something that research only now is rediscovering. Words influence identity, and identity influences behavior. Which brings me to the unconscious spells of the modern world. If ancient spells required intention and repetition, stay with me, yes? Something interesting appears when we examine modern language. Many people carry internal sentences that function almost like unconscious spells. I'm unlucky. I ruin everything. I can't trust people. I'm difficult to love. I'm always the one who gets blamed. These sentences are spoken so casually. And like I said earlier, that it's very important that this is the that the point is coming across, so I'm just going to repeat it. When you speak those sentences with humor or from frustration, our brain does not separate the language from identity very easily. We can't make the difference if it's said jokingly. I mean, we can, but our brain can't, right? Words are words. Tone is something for the ears, not for the brain. Maybe. I don't know how that works. I'm not a scientist like that or a doctor or whatever. Let me know if I have here a point with this, because sometimes I just say things that are like a spiritual download. Anyways, not going to elaborate further. We know that when a sentence is repeated often enough, our brain begins to adjust how the way we see, the way we look at it, our perception around it. Sorry, this is one reason why negative self-talk can become so powerful, because it slowly teaches the brain what to expect, and our brain, after hearing that and after believing that, our brain begins searching for evidence that confirms the story. So if you do that, that's also the reason why I had those many terrible, terrible relationships. Because if you, like for me, I believed I was unworthy of love, and I attracted a partner who beat me up like every day. So our brain is believing it, our brain is searching for the evidence, and our physical body, because it's so unconscious, the way that we act and stuff like that, is providing that evidence. And in the meanwhile, I was saying, "Oh, I have so much self pity," and da, da, da. And I had, but you know, it is a connection that I had to face. So I hope someone has something about it somewhere. But I thought in those moments when I can talk myself down, I can talk myself up, and that's when I began repeating other sentences, and they were very hard at first, but I wrote them, I spoke to them, I spoke them into the mirror. I I am learning, I am healing, I am worthy of connection, I am free from addictions. And in the meanwhile, when I was saying that to myself and when I was writing that to myself, I began to notice different patterns, different possibilities, different perceptions, and also different behaviors, because I noticed when I repeated my to get sober affirmations, my unjunkie affirmations, if you'd like, I noticed how more often I I grabbed it and did the thing right, and I was looking at it and I was like, nah, man, nah, no, I'm good. So it's very important for me in my recovery that I'm very conscious of the way that I speak to myself. And the following, what I'm going to say, is in no way or form any attack or judgment cast upon anybody, because I speak without judgment and I speak no evil. um, in that sense, what I was saying, humans are still casting spells today. And for that reason, I'm very, very amazed that I hear a lot of people that are getting judged by practicing witchcraft or practicing any ritual, spiritual or religious form of, I don't know, speaking, whatever, you know. I feel like if you're someone who is judging witches and everything that you don't know, then I'm I'm not attacking you, but I'm laughing by myself, because for me it's like, what is the difference? Because you and I'm a witch, right? So let's take it to this, to here, to you and me, just you and me. I'm a witch, and we both speak words every day. We're communicating every day with ourselves, with everyone. The difference between us is that many of my spells that I speak are conscious. I speak them with consciousness. I speak them with intention, and I speak them with source, right? With God, basically. And your spells are spoken unconsciously, without intention, without thinking about it, because why else would you judge something that you don't know? As if not to scream the fear away. Your own fear, right? Again, no way, shape, or form is this an attack. I just try to get my to get my truth out there, because we don't have to be like this to each other. It's not necessary. Like, you know, a lot of witches who believe in God. Do you know that? Like, okay, go talk to your local witch if you're in the USA, because I hear a lot of people that are getting judged. They are originated from the USA. So if you're in the USA and if you feel judgmental towards witchcraft or witches, go talk to your local witch and ask her about, or him, of course, sorry, or them about it. Um, I'm sure that they will gladly explain to you what exactly are the similarities between witchcraft and religion. I can't wait for you to do that. I invite you. For all my witches in the USA, I'm sorry if you get a lot of people knocking on the door. Just know that I'm raising awareness and trying to um, higher the frequency of Mama Gaia. So this is my own way of doing that. And with so the difference between you and me, because we still had a conversation, is that many of the spells that that we speak are from me conscious and from you unconsciously, which means to me awareness is the real source of power. And looking at the time, I'm going to close this episode. I'm make a I know I said a 2-part series, but it's going to be a 3-part series. I'm going to talk about the science behind words next. So subscribe if you don't want to miss that. Let me know in the comments, what did you think about this episode, about the words, what is your own input on it, and remember, frequency is power. Bye.